Discipline is either defined as a branch of knowledge or as a specific kind of trained obedience. In military specifically, soldiers often have to execute orders that doesn't make any sense without context of entire operation. And more often than not, there is no time to explain every single rifleman why are we blowing up Fierce Porta Potty and how will that win us war in the end. Unsurprisingly, Guild Wars 2 does none of that. What's wrong with Discipline then? Well, minor traits are all great in their own way, with versatile rage giving us adrenaline on weapon swap and versatile power granting might on weapon swap. Both of these are strong but not game-breaking on their own and have broad potential. On paper, these two are Warrior's healthiest minor traits. However, Fast Hands reduces weapon swap cooldown from 10 seconds down to 5. It is one of Warrior's most overpowered minor traits, and it makes its synergistic traits overpowered as well. That undoubtedly powerful minor trait, however, has a counterbalance in form of dense idiocy and severe retardation that plague every single trait column in Discipline. Let's start with Crackshot, which improves longbow rifle and harpoon gun. 2 weapons in total, and on top of that, 2 weapons that are both ranged, both underpowered, and work mediocrely with each other, either throwing a range into its own or into some other ability's goulash. With that disappointment out of the way, let's push onward to Warrior's Sprint, which increases movement speed while wielding melee weapon, and let us break out of Immobilize with a movement skill. A trait so vital, it was done 3 times. I can only bloody wonder why. Anyway, third trait in Adept column is Vengeful Return, which on paper sounds like TLDR of undead D&D party members' backstory, and in this game just buffs vengeance.
What?
Obvious issues here are the tiny fact that vengeance can only be accessed from elementalist stance, so you need to receive your daily dose of pierdol before you can give it to someone special. Not to mention, more often than not, you will get rallied or finished before the bloody button comes off cooldown, and even if you get to use it, who shoved your turd back where it came from once can do it again. And even if you somehow manage to score a kill with Vengeance, it might just decide to screw you over anyway. Vengeance does more harm than good, and it shouldn't be in the game. And so shouldn't be Vengeful Return. Going to the Master column, we land at Doubled Standards. The trait itself isn't bad, and due to its existence, Warrior can do quick support. Unfortunately, banners are usable to an extent, but very hard to justify in most builds, which drags Double Standards down with them. Moving on. Destruction of the Empowered is dumb. The main way of dealing with buffed targets is Boon Reap and Boon Corrupt. Therefore, dealing more damage to targets with boons just won't work 90% of the time, since your friendly neighborhood necromancer will constantly waltz towards your goulash with his mighty range. Not to mention, protection and Aegis will negate this trait, exactly when it would shine. Furthermore, consider if you even want to rush stupidly buffed opponents. When Harbinger pops his Elixir of Ambition, I'm moving the opposite Groggin direction. Anyway, from there we land on Brawler's Recovery, which is fine and reasonable until we add that to Fast Hands and get free cleanse every 5 seconds, which goes above and beyond what's fine and reasonable. Another trait made overpowered by low CD weapon swap. Burst Mastery makes your burst slap harder, refund a portion of adrenaline spent and speed you up. Fine out of 10. Heightened Focus basically doesn't exist. If you need or want quickness and no one in your group has your back, you get what you need from Double Standards. And that's without the need to chase whatever is low enough to trigger traits effects, and you can focus on what's important, aka Deimos' kneecaps. Finally, Axe Mastery is of course viable if you use axes, and it stops being viable when you don't. It's as simple as that. Round of applause please for a trait line with not a single choice to be made. In between all three columns, every single one has a trash trait, too niche to be even considerable, and two traits that benefit completely different builds with no overlap. Do you have ranged weapon? Are you using banners? And finally, are you using axes? One of traits related to mentioned questions only benefits you if the answer is yes, and in that same situation it is also the better option. The only choice Discipline presents is to grief or not to grief. Everything else is either made for you or in a different trait line. Crabface out.